Hello, and happy October. My name is Kayli Scholz. I'm the author of St. Grit. That's out November 14th from Ghoulish Books. Thank you to Brad Proctor for including me in 31 Days of Horror YouTube series. I'm psyched to be here. I'm going to get right into it and read you an excerpt from Chapter 3 of St. Grit. Near Labor Day, when the house was filled up with the smell of cigarette smoke and meat stewing in the crock pot, Davy and I had work to do. We ribboned yellow tape across the healthy tomato bed and planters adjacent to the manchineels to the side of the house, the skinny ones with twisted branches that I could see from my bedroom window. Louise raised hell at City Hall. She wanted the trees chopped down pronto. She told Ordnance she could smell the poison and it was giving her sores on her knuckles and on the bridge of her nose and lips. But Louise couldn't afford to file for the permit to have the manchineels removed, and Briggs Valley had a little army of environmental flag wavers ready to strike if somebody ripped up the natural land. Dad said grassroots lobbyists are hippies, Davy said. He was 15 now and talked about George all the time. He snapped the bright yellow tape off with his teeth, slapping the edges onto the rim of an empty flower pot. George is about a year away from being 6 feet underground. Why do you say that? Hey, Nadine, I said, why the hell do you say that? When Davy was angry with me, his lip quivered. He always looked on the verge of tears like his pouting mother. I smiled gently at him. I'm preparing you, I said. I didn't bother dodging out of the way of the tree line when the wind picked up and the branches shook and it started raining. Davy watched me safely from the porch, surrounded by petunias, the broken step, and his beat-up baseball glove. The rain fell as the sky struck a shade of blue gold. A black figure floated from the open window on the floor above, catching Davy's eye. There was an uninterpretable static, a voice, maybe the horn, that carried down to the porch. On Labor Day, it was the night before school started. Louise caught me in the triangle in the woods under the manchineels. I felt the evening air against my skin under the kimono, stroking between my legs. I knew she was there, leaning into the shadows, her wretchedness watching me as I looked up at the visible cone of light that cut from the second story to the wooded outskirts. Down on my knees, I looked over my shoulder and smiled wickedly at her. I didn't bother to quit touching myself. I rubbed harder. A high wind rose and Louise brought her hand to her appalled expression, stepping backward. She turned as if struck in the face and ran back into the house, framed in low shadow light. As I came, sap dripped onto my back and I felt bony, wet fingers glide over my jawbone and up the back of my skull. In the full dark, I walked down Mowry Road to the slaughterhouse, past the old dairy farm under the water tower. The sky was solid indigo. I shone a slim flashlight to guide my path to the industrial part of town that was cloaked in darkness with hot barns and torso-high weeds. The railroad would be noisy this time of night, but not yet, and although the screeching trains could be heard all the way out here, they rumbled by over a mile away. There was mud and rock and weeds, deep in the bends where the putrid whiff of manure and blood and urine climbed over the fence. Nobody would catch me out here in the pasture, and the ambling Doberman left me alone because I was a witch, and whatever the Doberman smelled on me, he didn't like. He retreated, whimpered, and sniffed the air. There was something inside of me that wasn't to be messed with, not even by a feral dog. The slaughterhouse was still operable in this broken mill town, hauling pig anus and pig belly onto the night trains, visible from the water tower adjacent to bunched treetops, spilling shadows onto the pasture. There were turned-over barrels and rotted machinery grinders, their metal parts speckled broken and black, looking ancient in the daytime. The edges of my kimono got caught on the pointy timber as I jumped the weathered fence, crawling through an open window into the slaughterhouse. Dead pigs hung on metal slabs, their snouts turned toward the ground. The rancid stink washed over me. The trapped heat made the whiff of pig blood and manure rotten. I located the serrated blades and cylindrical saws hanging on the walls next to the slaughtered pigs, mostly clean instruments. I waved the flashlight around the room, pausing at the bone saws. I grabbed a serrated bone saw and hitched the door beyond the dead pigs, stepping into pitch black, unremitting heat. It was insufferably humid. With the bone saw gripped in my right hand like a pipe, I sidestepped straw and horse manure that caked my ankles. The squishing wet sensation was not as harsh as the smell. The swine oinked and grunted in the tight pen, waiting in their filth to die. One of the pigs raised its snout and made wet noises at me. It sounded like Roger suffering a night terror. Same species, same helpless sounds. I felt my way through the darkness because the beam from the flashlight wasn't enough, the whites of the swine's eyes coming into vision. In the corner of a bale of hay, I stood in manure and grabbed a handful of gray tufted fur between its floppy ears. The pig whinnied. I jammed the bone saw sideways into its fat neck, forcing the serrated blade into the tight muscle. Pools of blood spurred like a blast at first, and then like lava. I could see the blood bubble in the darkness, and I removed the bone saw and then forced it back inside the neck, going further, twisting and gutting up to my forearm in cartilage. I yanked the tufted fur vertically, and it peeled off its skin. The other swine in the adjacent pens grunted. I didn't have trouble gutting the pig. My body strength, hulking and tenacious. I went from the other side of its neck with the bone saw, jamming and twisting. I went down into its breastbone, using my right foot to finish off its lung capacity as the mammal bled out. Its pink ears flopped to one side, and its eyes looked forced open. Its brain leaked out the mouth, and when I couldn't muster the strength to saw anymore, I grabbed an axe and chopped the rest of its head off, finishing the job. I left the rest of its body and bones in the hay and bagged the swine's head in a black bag. I heaved the pig's head all the way home. Ravens and magpies would have licked up any trace of blood, and I dripped onto the dirt road. I didn't see it. I didn't care. The next morning, Louise knocked on my bedroom door while I was getting ready for school, sitting at the heart-shaped vanity. Senior year, Roger wouldn't show up. He was too haunted. "Hello, Louise," I said, applying black eyeliner. Louise looked inconsolable. I thought perhaps Davy had fallen and died in front of the kitchen sink too. "Nadine," she began. I noticed in the mirror's reflection the blood stains and the crick of her fingernail beds. I never want to see that again. Please, may God have mercy on us. I planted the pig's head in bed with her where George used to sleep. "Don't follow me into the woods again," I said, "unless you want to clean up the loins. There's plenty more swine in this town." Louise quietly shut my bedroom door, went down the hall to wake Davy for school, and made coffee. She'd had to clean it up. I noticed a drip of the pig's blood dripping from her pink floral nightgown. And that's it. Thank you for listening. Excuse me. Like I said, St. Grit is my debut novel. It's out November 14th from Ghoulish Books. Get it from ghoulishbooks.com or your favorite place to purchase books. You can find me at Kayli-Scholz.com to read more of my work. And that's it. Thank you. Happy Halloween. Bye.